Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon and our continued coverage of Merchant's Cove. Today we're going to be covering how to set up and play the Blacksmith. The Blacksmith is easily one of the more simple merchants to manage in the game, so this one would be great for a younger audience or beginners of the game. And in this video we're going to cover how to set up the board specifically to the blacksmith, and then the specific actions the blacksmith can take in order to get some goods onto their sales shelf here. So first of all, we need to set up their board, and it's very straightforward. You basically have two sets of the colored dice, one for each customer color, faction color, and then you have four of these black dice. The black dice represent coal that are always going to sit in your furnace, and depending on how high or low the number is on those black dice is how hot the furnace is to begin with. So what you're going to do is you're going to place them in these four locations here that you can see. There is a kind of die symbol already there, and you're going to match the pip symbol. So a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. Pretty simple. Then you're going to take 4 of your colored dice, one of each color, and you're going to place them on top of the symbols here. I'm blanking on what the term is. The faction symbols there, just like so. The pip count on these symbols here does not matter. So you could have them at all 6s, you could have them all match. It really does not matter. They can all be at 1s. Just make sure you place them on top of the matching color. So that is the setup for the blacksmith. You also want to make sure you grab their Townsfolk activation board here. This one is specific to the blacksmith. You can see it has this forge symbol on it. That's probably the easiest way to tell it apart. The last thing you're going to do as part of setup is take the 4 remaining dice, one of each color, and you're going to actually roll these. So these, the pips matter, and this is actually a really nice roll. All right, so you're going to want to set these off to the side and keep them on the pips that you rolled. All right, so now that we've set up the blacksmith, let's talk about the actions that you can take when it is your turn. The most basic action, the most straightforward action, is to add dice to your furnaces. Now you can see there is a action spot at underneath each furnace here, and each action, no matter which furnace you go to, only takes 1 hour. So the furnaces on the left are going to be producing your large goods, like so. And they're going to require 3 dice total, but you always have 1 as the cold dice. So they're going to be requiring you placing 2 dice. So even though you place a worker here, you still get to place 2 dice. Now, it's important to note that whichever die is at the top of the furnace here, that's the color good you're going to be creating. So if I want to create a yellow large good, I need to make sure I have a yellow large die. But then overall, you're basically looking at the total count of the pips. Now, what's tricky is that the large goods want high heat furnaces. You want high numbers. You want 10 plus, 12 plus, depending on the color. So you can see here that if you want to produce a green or a red large good, you're going to be looking at these left numbers. If you want to produce a yellow or blue large good, you're going to be looking at these right numbers. Now your coal starts not very high in these. And over here in the small goods, you actually want low numbers. You want 8 or less, 6 or less. And these numbers start high. So this is where one of the Townsfolk action boards come into play. This first one here allows you to adjust your coal dice up or down 3 total pips. So you could spend them all on 1 die, turning a 2 into a 5. Or you could spread them out. You could turn that to a 2, that to a 3, that down to a 2. It's up to you. But just keep that in mind that there are ways to manipulate these coal dice. But ideally, what you're going to want to do is have 2 nice high dice over here to produce your low goods, and then a low dice over here to produce your small goods. So say we have taken a few rounds of loading up our furnace, and this is what our furnace now looks like after the after a few rounds. We're also going to take a look at this action here, and this is the Smelting Furnace. This gives us the ability to gain one of these dice to add to our dice pool. So it's going to allow us to produce more goods. It's also going to reveal our sponsorship here. So depending on which faction we want to be able to gain sponsorship for at the end of the market phase depends on which die you might want to pull off. But either way, spending your worker here, spending the blacksmith here, costs 1 time. You can place any die. It doesn't matter the pip, it doesn't matter the color. You basically just have to give up a die and place it into this furnace here. Alright, so now we've loaded up some furnaces. Now we can actually do something when we go to our forage action. This is when we can actually go about and use our furnaces to make the goods. So I'm going to take this off the shelf here and just walk through those steps. When you take the forage action, it costs 2 time, and you get to go through any forage of your any furnace of your choice and forage a good if you so choose. So let's look at this first one here. This first one, our total pip count is 12. All right, that's perfect because to create a yellow good, you can see yellow large good needs a 12 plus. So we're set. But let's say, just for example, this happened to be the best die amount we could put forth, and we have not hired a townsfolk yet. We have not adjusted this die at all. Technically, you probably would have want to come over here, but we didn't. We didn't make that choice. So we came here anyways, and our total count is 11. We can still create our yellow good, but we're going to gain a corruption card for doing so. All right, now if, for example, this was our die setup, and maybe we were hoping to have hired a townsfolk and activate them, but we ran out of time and we ran to the furnace just because, this is producing nothing because your total here is 9. You're trying to produce a yellow good. We don't have enough heat to produce that yellow good. So you can see, unless you hit these ranges here, you're not producing anything. So it would be silly to activate this furnace. You're going to want to hold off on that stuff. You can leave it there. Again, which furnaces you forge from is your choice. So normally though, if we take our original scenario where we had 12 total pips, you could take a large yellow good and place it onto your sales shelf here. All right, then we go over here to this furnace, and this is where we're producing small goods, and we actually want low numbers. So you can see the numbers are reversed. You wanting 8 or less, 6 or less. Here we're trying to produce a small red good, and so we want an 8 or less. Our total pips are 4, so again, we're set. Sorry, you always leave the black dice behind. All right, so we have produced a small red good to put on our shelf. Anytime you pull dice out of a furnace because you have created a good, you're going to set them off to the side because you're going to re-roll all of them at the end of the round, and they can't be used at all until you re-roll them. So just set them off to the side, because the last furnace we're going to come to here is the Smelting Furnace. Now the Smelting Furnace is very straightforward. You are simply going to spend that die that you placed there earlier, and then you're going to choose which one of these you want to pick up. Say we want to have the yellow sponsorship and we want to be able to make more yellow goods in the future, so we pick that up. Now during the market phase, we'll be able to gain yellow sponsorship. Now that we have activated all the furnaces we want to activate and we've set aside all of our spent die, now we're going to take these and we're going to roll them out for future rounds. Okay, and you can see now I actually have an additional yellow die, so I actually have 5 dice to play with and place into furnaces before I forge. You know, I have increased my engine, my capacity to use the dice for actions. That's pretty much it. Like I said, it is very straightforward to work the blacksmith. You're basically trying to roll out these dice and match them up with the various target things here, ideally not taking corruption when you do so, and then taking the forage action when you're ready to actually produce goods. Remember, you need to take the forage action to get the goods onto your shelf, so definitely do that at least once before you have a market phase, or else you'll have nothing to sell. All right, the last thing that I want to cover with the blacksmith is the Townsfolk Board here. And it was described, actually used this one as an example in the core game, but just so you know, as you hire townsfolk, you're going to slot them into behind these particular areas. And so when you take the activate a townsfolk action, which costs 2 time, you get to activate every single one of these abilities that has a townsfolk assigned to it. And you can do them in any order, but I'm just going to go from left to right here as we explain. So the first one here is to increase or decrease the pips on the cold dice up to 3, and you can spread them out, you can spend them all in one place. So say I want this 2 to become a 4 and this 1 to become a 2. I've now increased the total pip count by 3. Done. This next one is to completely load a furnace. Now, technically, you could go there and completely load this furnace by taking this action, but remember that when you spend 2 time to activate this board, you're doing all of these actions. So not only are you setting yourself up to hit that range, but you're also giving yourself the ability, if you have this space filled, to fill either 2 here or 1 here. Any one furnace that you want, or even the smelting furnace, you could go there. You're preparing something, because the next action is then to actually forge, but only in 2 furnaces. So say I had gone here and here and here. When I get to this point, or say I even want to do this first, I have to choose. I cannot go through all of the furnaces like I can when I take the forage action on my main board. When I take it on this board, I actually have to choose. So am I going to do the smelting and maybe the small good? Am I going to go ahead and knock out my blue large good? You have to choose. Again, after you have, say, produced these 2 goods, which say we do that and you did what? Produced a small green good. Then you're going to take the 3 that you've set aside and you're going to re-roll them. Remember, you only roll after having taken a forage action. Normally that's just right here, but you do get 1 if you've placed a townsfolk here. And the last one here, this is available on every single merchant board, merchant's Townsfolk board, and that's the ability to discard or give back a corruption card of your choice. You're going to be gaining those throughout the game. They're negative points at the end of the game, so obviously getting rid of them, getting them out of your hand is ideal. But again, whether or not you even hire a townsfolk and where you put them on the Townsfolk board is your decision. And then whether or not you ever even spend the 2 time to activate the townsfolk, again, is your decision. But that in its entirety is the Blacksmith. Between rounds, dice that are already in the furnace can stay put, dice in your dice pool stay put, and dice that are off of your sponsorship stay off of your sponsorship. So again, your goal, just like every other merchant, is to produce goods, both big and small, trying to match up the incoming customers' colors and the docks that they go to. So knowing that there's yellow customers coming to the large goods docks and green and red customers coming to the small goods dock would be ideal in this scenario. But that's it for the Blacksmith. Again, the Blacksmith is very straightforward, very basic. It's not a lot of convoluted actions here. You're basically just loading your furnaces up, hopefully hitting that proper pip count, and then you're forging to make your goods. And that's it. So if you have any questions, feel free to please leave them in the comment section below. But if you are enjoying this series, please consider giving it this video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel, because we will be covering all of the merchants, including the expansion merchants, and in future videos. So if you are interested in those videos, please consider subscribing to the channel so you can check them out. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Have a great day.